I recognize, of course, the management and staff of the ECCB, our FIM partners, our planning committee, members of the media, our citizens of the ECCU who are joining us this afternoon for this particular launch. A fool and his money are soon parted. The problem is not you. You are the problem. The problem is not money. The problem is you. These quotes bring into sharp focus the perennial challenge of financial management, which quite frankly is a lifelong endeavor. The ECCB commenced its financial literacy campaign in 2002. Now in its 18th year, this campaign has the potential to become a veritable grassroots movement through which the citizens of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union can be educated and empowered to follow their dreams and fulfill their God-given potential. The ECCB understood then, and even more so now, that there can be no liberation without education, and no financial empowerment without financial literacy. This year, the focus of FIM 2019 is on insurance, guided by the theme, plan for uncertainty, make insurance your priority. I welcome this particular focus and commend the planners for their foresight in bringing this issue to the fore to start or perhaps continue a regional conversation about insurance and, frankly, more importantly, financial protection. In the context of our region's stated ambition to become the first climate resilient zone in the world, the issue of financial resilience is of paramount importance. To that end, insurance, which is essentially a form of risk transfer, ought to be seen and properly recognized as a key element in our region's resilience framework. As we speak, about 2/3 of natural disaster losses in the Caribbean are uninsured. I repeat, 2/3 of natural disaster losses in the Caribbean are uninsured. At the household level, many homes are uninsured or underinsured. Some suggest only about 25% of our household stock may be adequately insured. I'm still trying to get that number clarified, but frankly, that is what it was about 10, 15 years ago, well, maybe 10 years ago, and not a whole lot seems to have changed, and that's concerning. At the level of the individual as well as small businesses, many persons have no form of health insurance. This situation means that a medical problem can easily morph into a financial crisis. And we know so many stories in that vein. Clearly, the financial protection gap in our region presents a major impediment to our sustained development and our goal of shared prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot start over our development every time we experience a natural disaster, medical problem, or financial reversal. Instead, we ought to position ourselves to bounce back quickly, the classic definition of resilience, to bounce back quickly after we've been hit by the storms of life which inevitably come. These storms could include a hurricane, a fire, a medical problem, or a cyber attack. Today, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is pleased to partner with financial institutions across the currency union, including our commercial banks, credit unions, insurers, media entities, and our member governments for the launch and rollout of FIM 2019. I wish to place on record my appreciation of the FIM 2019 Planning Committee, country committees, our resident representative country managers, as well as my colleagues from our Corporate Relations Department. At this juncture, I wish to challenge our FIM partners, listen to me very carefully, to identify key metrics by which we can assess the development impact of this annual financial festival. And yes, that is what it is, a festival, a financial festival. How are we doing? Who are we impacting? How are we changing the game, the conversation, and the game in our region about financial literacy and empowerment? I know we're going to do good work, but we have to be able to measure our impact. These key metrics, combined with a refined feedback loop, ought to be employed to help us determine how we make financial literacy in the ECCU a veritable grassroots movement, so that by the time we celebrate our 20th anniversary in 2 years' time, this should be completely grassroots. Driven not from the top, but from the bottom up, with some support from the middle and the top. A student graduating the ECCU with 10 or 15 subjects ought to know how to manage money. It's amazing they can give you theory in physics, but they cannot manage money. And they ought to know skill. So my discussion about subject and skill, if you're following me, they ought to know how to manage money before they get their first job, and certainly before they head off to university. And I'm sure many parents in the room who have children in university would understand this point, because it's like a sucking sound having to send money for them in the middle of the semester because they cannot manage their student budget. Now, some of you have gotten very creative, and you now have ways to ensure that you give them just what they need, send the school what the school must get, send them monthly, so that you keep them on a very tight leash. But truly, an empowered student in the 21st century in our region ought to be able to handle his business, or handle a business where money is concerned. And this is the nonsense I see, and I don't want to get sidetracked on subject and skills today, but this is the challenge I see, where people are coming out bright with many subjects but do not have basic life skills. That's the problem. That's the problem. Of necessity, such a grassroots movement requires a further broadening of our partners and stakeholders to include our children, students, community, and citizen-based groups. Furthermore, it must harness technology such as apps and the power of social media. To that end, I believe, for example, we truly hear from ECCU, that our friends in the credit union movement are well placed to utilize your local infrastructure as well as your international partners to play a key role in this campaign for a grassroots movement. And I want to assure you that the ECCB stands firmly with you in this endeavor. In pursuing this idea of a grassroots movement, we ought to be cognizant that the barriers to financial empowerment in our region are sometimes cultural. For example, some people mistrust banks and insurance companies or insurers, while others regard a budget as a bad word. No, I take that back, a very bad word. And yet, financial empowerment and shared prosperity require us to demand of ourselves strong financial stewardship, and not just ourselves, but our leaders at every level: community, corporate, country. Our bank's ongoing call for the adoption of fiscal responsibility and fiscal resilience frameworks in our member countries is aligned with this vision. To advance this idea of a grassroots movement for financial empowerment, I wish to suggest that the Planning Committee reconvenes after the completion and evaluation of FIM 2019 to fully consider this matter and to submit their recommendations. Ultimately, a grassroots movement for financial empowerment would help to advance the transformation agenda in the ECCU and would have the full support of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. In conclusion, I want to thank all of our partners and supporters who have gathered for today's lunch. I wish you a fact-filled and fun-filled festival. Thank you.